Introduction to Changsheng from the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty. The timeline of the novel. 168.280 years. In the late Eastern Han Dynasty / Three Kingdoms, Liu Changsheng was my disciple. Zhang Liang. Liu Changsheng is my junior brother. Zhang Jiao. Liu Changsheng is my sworn brother and also my junior brother. Emperor Ling of Han Lu Hong. Liu Changsheng. Chapter 1. In order to bow down to Zhang Jiao and enter the small forest. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. De Co Lois Ara Trong Quatrin Lay Text. Chapter 2. Lao Zhuang's transmission, Liu Changsheng's joyful harvest of happy journey. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. De Co Lois Ara Trong Quatrin Lay Text. Chapter 3. Leisure Travel, The Way of Time. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. De Co Lois Ara Trong Quatrin Lay Text. Chapter 4. Taking Realizing Peace in the World as Our Own Responsibility. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. De Co Lois Ara Trong Quatrin Lay Text. Chapter 5. The Deep Forest Indiana, the Back Mountain of Julu County. Episode 4. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. De Co Lois Ara Trong Quatrin Lay Text. Chapter 6. The way is different, so let's go our separate ways. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. But it was said that Liu Changsheng and the four of them bowed in the small forest that night. At this moment it was already the prime time, and due to the scene of worshipping the young girl, Liu Changsheng briefly forgot about the two young girls at home. After the four of them tossed and turned in the rain, they dug out a huge pit with their fingers and buried the neatly arranged bones of the spirits on both sides of the big tree. They filled the pit and knelt down before the four of them. These deceased people, although their inner intention was to get rich, may seem somewhat unfair, but this adventurous spirit of fearlessness and putting life and death aside is worthy of their admiration. What are Changsheng's plans for the future? Liu Changsheng and his four companions were lying side by side on the grassy slope at the entrance of the back mountain, both physically and mentally exhausted. I'm not too young anymore. In the current world, I have the same view as you, big brother. It's not peaceful. Liu Changsheng rested his hands on his head and looked at the few white clouds floating in the sky, murmuring, the outside world is also very dangerous. I want to pass on the incense first. Then he wandered the world alone, building his own country. Liu Changsheng was lustful in his heart, constantly outlining his grand blueprint. His inner world, which had calmed his emotions, began to turn upside down again. If one becomes an emperor in the future, one must have a group of wives and concubines, give birth to several chubby children, and have a family full of descendants, circling around oneself. What about you, big brother? Why don't you and your third and fourth brothers move in with me? As soon as Liu Changsheng thought about his elder brother's family background, he wanted him to move over and live with him, while also promoting brotherly friendship. He really wants to take his big brother, third brother, and fourth brother to the famous brothels nearby for a stroll, and even help them redeem a wife to continue the tradition. Or you could go to the wine alley and get a few pounds of raw and cooked beef, and add a few jars of vintage wine. Although today's worship is also very enjoyable, it is witnessed by heaven, big trees, and heroes. The kindness of a wise younger brother has become my elder brother's heart. However, Zhang Jiao politely declined Liu Changsheng's kindness. It's not that the elder brother is unwilling to go. Speaking of this, Zhang Jiao suddenly became interested and said, my master taught me the essential techniques of typing. Now I only remember its mental techniques, but I cannot fully understand the mysteries behind it. So I plan to set up a shed in a deserted place with Zhang Bao and Zhang Liang, and study this book with peace of mind. Liu Changsheng greatly admires his elder brother. After all, he is willing to put in effort to study such a boring thing on his own. If it were his own turn, he probably wouldn't know who he was making people with in his sleep. Alas, I can't learn this kind of practice from my elder brother, my younger brother, sighed Liu Changsheng. He didn't know what kind of situation he was in, and he couldn't get into quiet activities like meditation and cultivation, for strolling through brothels, drinking and rolling dice, he can achieve sleeplessness day and night. Big brother, this forest looks very nice to me. You can walk deeper. The forest behind Julu County is indeed a blessed place for cultivation. Big brother, I'm curious. What did the master teach you alone that day? When talking about cultivation, Liu Changsheng thought of the scene when Zhuang separated him that day. This is not an undisclosed secret either. Sir, let me discuss in detail how to use this martial arts technique. In general, it consists of 16 words, representing heaven and spreading knowledge, and saving the world. If you have any ulterior motives, you will receive evil retribution. Zhang Jiao's expression was somewhat casual, as if he didn't take the 16 words mentioned by Zhuang seriously. Little did they know that these 16 characters had become a shackle to the fate of the three brothers Zhang Jiao in a certain sense. Especially the four characters, Roa Meng Xin, will soon take the lives of Zhang Jiao and his three brothers. Liu Changsheng really wanted to glimpse the fate of the four brothers in the future, but unfortunately, although he inherited Zhuangzi's Xiaoyao Yu, like Zhang Jiao's Taiping Yao Shu, he only remembered his mind techniques but did not understand the mysteries behind it. Liu Changsheng has an unpredictable future, and besides being able to draw patterns with his fingers, he can no longer think of any other usage for this game. How long will these 16 simple words last? Liu Changsheng was surprised and couldn't help feeling a little jealous. Why should I explain it in such detail to my elder brother, yet I have to meditate and realize it myself? This is unfair. Zhang Jiao glanced at the two younger brothers beside him, and his voice slowed down a few times. Don't blame the master either. The master is an extraordinary expert, and his actions naturally make sense. Zhang Jiao seemed to see Liu Changsheng's imbalance. Big brother is right. It is our honor that the master was able to pass on the martial arts skills to the two of us, which was hard-won. Listening to Zhang Jiao's words, Liu Changsheng realized that he had gone crazy. The grace of imparting knowledge, as a disciple, not only does not repay the kindness, but also opposes it with hatred, which is a great taboo. I feel relieved if you think so. Zhang Jiao felt a little relieved. Originally, Zhuangzi said to Zhang Jiao alone in the cave that day. Changsheng is an impatient person. In the days when I am not around, you should discipline him more and not let him lose his sanity and go astray. Liu Changsheng is a descendant of Han Gaozu Liu Bang, and Zhang Jiao is a descendant of Zhang Liang during the late Qin period. This is also the reason why Zhuangzi chose them as his disciples. At the beginning of the chaotic era in the late Qin dynasty, Zhuangzi was sent by heaven to end this chaotic era in the mortal world. He incarnated as Lord Huangshi and waited for the destined person on the bridge. As Zhang Liang met his requirements, he imparted the Taoist teachings to him. Later on, Zhang Liang did not disappoint and became a strategist under Liu Bang's banner, a key figure in unifying the world and ensuring peace. Of course, Zhang Jiao did not know that he was a descendant of Zhang Liang. In history, many families lost their genealogies along the way due to population migration, or were granted surnames by emperors, which led to many large families becoming confused about who their ancestors were. Second brother, if you don't have the big brother by your side in the future, you need to reflect more, Zhang Jiao said. Although Liu Changsheng has received many positive reviews in the local area, there are also many negative reviews, such as the title of the first person in the brothel. If it weren't for the sake of the world, Zhang Jiao would be more willing to stay by Liu Changsheng's side and correct some bad habits for him. After all, in his mind, besides being a bad person, Liu Changsheng can actually get by in other aspects. Listen attentively to Big Brother's teachings, Liu Changsheng said. He had a vague sense of unease in his heart, feeling a bit uncomfortable. Although they were from the same school, they may have been walking on different paths after tonight. The big brother in front of me is concerned about the world, but for myself, I want to break through the world like my ancestor Liu Xiu, become prosperous and powerful. Perhaps the two of them will come together again in the future, but that will be the future. Chapter 7. Auntie and Mandarin ducks alone in the empty boudoir. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Early the next morning. Big brother, this sword is a royal treasure sword passed down from our ancestors. Take it for self-defense. Before leaving, Liu Changsheng threw the sword in his hand to Zhang Jiao. Zhang Jiao took the sword from Liu Changsheng's hand and pulled it, only to see that it was covered in copper and rust. Liu Changsheng felt a bit embarrassed and scratched his head with a silly smile on his face. He never thought about what his ancestral sword was. After all, it had never been moved by himself. It was Yi Mei who flipped it out and threw it to him. It's better to buy another one on the street, a broken sword that can't cut anything. What's the use of asking him for it? However, Zhang Jiao did not say so, only believing that it was to promote brotherly friendship. The inheritance item gifted by my second younger brother, big brother, is extremely grateful. Let's say goodbye then. Perhaps thinking of the two poor girls at home, Liu Changsheng quickly clasped his hands and said goodbye in a hurry. Zhang Liang and Zhang Bao both sent their blessings to Liu Changsheng and bid farewell, embarking on their own path of life. Liu Changsheng's clothes have long been torn and tattered by the sharp thorns of the trees in the back mountain forest. Fortunately, I have covered up my important areas very firmly, otherwise when I arrive at the small town, I will lose my fortune. A few days later, it was Liu Changsheng's coronation ceremony. The coronation ceremony is a very important etiquette for every male in the Han ethnic group. Men will hold the coronation ceremony at the age of 20, which indicates that a person has completely transformed from a small tree to a big tree. The coronation ceremony requires the presence of family elders. Unfortunately, my parents passed away young, and my grandfather was also sent to heaven by myself not long ago. When Liu Changsheng thought of Guanli, he felt as if he had lost his freedom. If he had wandered through brothels and casinos before reaching adulthood, it could only be said that he was ignorant. A few days later, it will become New Year. After receiving the crown ceremony, if you go shopping in brothels or casinos, you won't be able to become one. Although Liu Changsheng thinks so, his neighbors wouldn't think so. Whether he is an adult or not, as long as it is something he does, he will never want to clean it up in his lifetime. This is like a piece of black coal carbon, no matter how you wash it, it's still a dirty thing. Especially on the street, Grandma Wang and Grandma Li hold several watermelon seeds in their hands all day long, and together with a few unknown mothers around them, they establish a secret agency similar to the royal guards. In the morning, they would squat at the entrance of their respective neighborhoods, munching on melon seeds, watching the continuous stream of passers-by coming to the market. In the afternoon, the setting sun was a signal for them to gather and exchange information. So Liu Changsheng secretly gave them a title. Northwest Wind. Although they also wanted to throw a few copper coins to block their mouths, they didn't lack money. Liu Changsheng feels a very headache. He ran all the way and tried his best to avoid taking the sunny path. Their eyes are very sharp. I don't know how Amei and Yuanyang are doing, Liu Changsheng said while gasping for breath. In the courtyard, Amei was standing in the lobby of the main hall, her jade hands holding her fragrant cheeks, her eyebrows furrowed, anxiously pacing back and forth in the lobby. Yuanyang sat in Liu Changsheng's boudoir, with rosy circles around her eyes. Her delicate jade hands tightly grasped the bedding, as if they were all bleeding. Outside the courtyard, a group of middle-aged and strong men gathered, some carrying poles, some carrying brooms, and others carrying baskets full of deworming feces. We haven't seen Changsheng's figure for a few days, I'm afraid we weren't harmed by these two broom stars. A very sharp sound sounded, like a pig's cry, but also like a cow's howl. I saw an elderly woman in her 40s, dressed in plain makeup, holding a handful of watermelon seeds and covered in fat. She also wore a pink handkerchief around her waist and swaggered out of the crowd, standing in front of everyone, showing off her strength. It's the head of the northwest wind, Grandma Wang. Yeah, I haven't seen it for a long time either. Another old woman of her age stood up and testified for her. This is the second in command of the northwest wind, Grandma Li. I don't know if everyone is interested in the property of the Liu family, or if they are interested in the two girls of the Liu family. Others also responded one after another. Quickly make those two broom stars in the courtyard come out. Yes, come out. Standing in the lobby of the courtyard, Mei's eyebrows burned with anger, and she was also very anxious about why her man had not returned so long. Perhaps he had really encountered an accident. She doesn't want to die so early. Observing his Mandarin ducks and listening to the commotion outside the door, he only thought that Liu Changsheng might have really passed away. Without hesitation, he grabbed the scissors by the table and stabbed himself in the neck. Sister Yuanyang, absolutely not. Fortunately, when Mei saw it, she quickly dissuaded her. At that time, Yuanyang was like this in the brothel. When she first dressed as a guest, she hid a pair of scissors in her bed, but in the end, it ended up cutting off the lifeline of the wealthy young master. Liu Changsheng treated her well, and when Liu Changsheng was present, he used his own money to redeem her. After redemption, besides helping him with chores and serving as a waiter, he did nothing else and remains a virgin to this day. Moreover, since Liu Changsheng redeemed them, he has never been to brothels again. He has been to casinos at www.zhaoshuyuan.com, just staying at home with them all day long. Sister. This was the first time that Yuanyang had started crying, calling her sister Mei. You stay here and I'll meet them when I go out. Now Mei has no other choice but to go out and meet them. Mei walked to the door and as soon as she opened it, the door suddenly became silent. Dear parents, we are going on a blind date as parents. We just need to handle some things when we go out and may come back later. Oh my God, that's impossible. I saw with my own eyes that Liu Changsheng hasn't left the door of this courtyard in the past few days. Grandma Wang spat deeply at Mei. Yeah, how dare a person who hasn't received a coronation ceremony not go home alone for a few days. Grandma Li extended her hand and pointed at Mei, then stomped her foot, as if it were a landslide. This posture is no less impressive than the roosters in every household's cage about to fight. Yes, give us a truth, the neighbors cheered along. There's really no such thing. As a woman, how could I possibly deceive you? Amidst the pressure from everyone, Mei panicked and waved her hands repeatedly, retreating to convince them that Liu Changsheng was really just going out to do something. Everyone, you look at the expression of the mischievous spirit and feel guilty. Grandma Wang didn't show any signs of retreat. Instead, she took a step closer and held it forward with both hands. The last watermelon seed in her mouth also spat out towards Mei. When everyone saw this, some villagers holding radishes and cabbage in their hands without saying a word, directly smashed them at Mei. Fox, give us a truth quickly. Grandma Li seemed like a commander, waving her hand and picking up rhythm. Give us a truth. Chapter 8. Mandarin Duck Sacrifice in Love, Liu Changsheng returns. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Why don't you just believe me? Mei's knees slightly bent and she shook the handkerchief in her hand. She had a nervous expression and a flushed face, but she was very strong and did not break down or cry. This elder sister must be strong, otherwise the Mandarin ducks in the room will have rice seedlings. If anything unexpected happens to Liu Changsheng, it wouldn't be a big deal if she followed her. After all, her body has long been unclean, unlike a Mandarin duck, she is still a virgin, and there is still a chance to become a good young lady and get married. In order to prevent the Mandarin ducks from being influenced by the outside world and sacrificing themselves again. Moreover, Mei knew that her defense was no longer of great use, so she didn't say a word, didn't do anything, and closed the door. If he is still alive, come back quickly. Mei thought so. In an era of patriarchy, family members can only rely on their own male offspring, and of course, there are also female heroes who break the norm and support their families. At this moment, Liu Changsheng was walking on a path of weeds and sentient beings. The road was not lying flat like a main road, but rather bumpy and uneven, with sharp stones and broken debris. He looked very disheveled, like a prisoner running out of a dark prison. He has arrived near Julu County. Looking at the village just 2 or 3 miles ahead of him, Liu Changsheng let out a deep sigh, brushed his tattered sleeves, and wiped the sweat beads that sprouted up on his forehead like a fountain. There are both cold and hot sweats involved. He looked like a beggar at this moment. I hope they're okay. Liu Changsheng was exhausted and stopped squatting in place, taking a deep breath. In the past few days, there was not as much alcohol and meat as usual, and now he is running on an empty stomach, which is naturally unbearable. When he reached the outer wall of his own courtyard, he had intended to climb through it and noticed on his side that the entrance of the courtyard was surrounded by a dark crowd of people. The 2 women, led by him, were pressing against the door of May step by step. Isn't this the head and second in command of the northwest wind? These 2 bastards, if you don't say anything about hitting me, you'll still hit them while I'm not here. Liu Changsheng clenched his fist, gritted his teeth, and made a thumping sound in his mouth. On the outskirts of the crowd, a few people noticed Liu Changsheng, but only glanced in this direction and did not pay too much attention. After all, Liu Changsheng looked really like a beggar. In order to prevent being recognized, he had to walk to the position opposite the door and prepare to flip over. Of course, one can walk through the gate, but now one's appearance will either be mistaken as a prisoner who has committed a crime, or falsely accused of being dressed in the skin of Liu Changsheng, but in reality, they are poor beggars. The northwestern wind is a few people, but they can do anything, especially the method of forcing others to comply, which can be said to be a classic in the classics. If you use force to force her, slap her in the face with 1 or 2 slaps, and she sits in place, legs crossed into a figure, kicking and kicking, like a deadbeat on the street, forcing you to comply. The outer wall of the Liu family courtyard is about 1 zhang high, and the wall opposite the main entrance is slightly lower than the wall of the main entrance. The walls are located from top to bottom, with a thick layer of tiles covering the top. He took a leap and touched the outer wall with his hand. He pulled himself up and easily crossed the wall with his entire upper body. This action is like flowing clouds and flowing water. After all, when my grandfather was alive before, he did this kind of sneaky thing a lot. However, he usually went out late at night and had to come back early in the morning. If discovered, it's inevitable to get hit by the board. However, before Liu Changsheng could cross the wall, he saw the scene of a Mandarin duck holding scissors and about to commit suicide towards her fragrant neck. The people outside the yard were causing a commotion, and Liu Changsheng's voice seemed insignificant at this moment. He was so scared that he quickly took off his shoes and shot into the room. Changsheng, I'll go with you. Yuanyang's right hand tightly gripped the scissors, gritted her teeth, and fiercely stabbed her neck. A sudden shoot caught the eyes of the Mandarin duck, and before she could react, she was knocked unconscious by the impact. However, the scissors still scratched the fragrant neck of the Mandarin duck. Fortunately the wound was not deep. When did my strength become so strong? Liu Changsheng was surprised, as he and his brothers didn't usually go to the river to float with such strength in the town. This, Xiaoyao Yu, is really extraordinary. Without much time to think, Liu Changsheng jumped down and into the yard, but his legs softened and he almost knelt on the ground. Entering his own bedroom and looking at the Mandarin duck lying on the bed, Liu Changsheng reached out to wipe her crying red eyes, the shoe marks on her forehead, and the bloodstains left on her fragrant neck. Yuanyang is over 15 years old, and his family background is no longer known except for Yuanyang herself. Amei urinates and lives in a brothel with her mother, which can be considered an ancestral profession. There are rumors in the building that it was Mei's father who sold her mother and daughter here to pay off her gambling debts. This girl, why are you sacrificing yourself for love? Liu Changsheng couldn't help but laugh and cry, quickly taking off his Mandarin duck clothes and shoes, leaving only a set of underwear on him. He moved her to the bed and covered her with bedding, afraid that her bones would catch a cold. Looking at her delicate and tired face, Liu Changsheng couldn't help but lightly kiss her thin and tender red lips. This is much more thrilling than kissing Yi Mei. Liu Changsheng took off his tattered clothes and quickly changed into a new one. He grabbed Qingti from the plate, stuffed it into his mouth, and swallowed it. He walked up to the mirror where Yi Mei often used makeup, picked up the powder from Yi Mei's wooden table, and applied it to his face. He also sprinkled some Yi Mei's spices on himself, trying to make himself look less embarrassed. Zhaozhuiyuan.com. After a brief tidying up, he walked towards the door without looking back. "You fox spirit, what's wrong with closing the door?" Grandma Wang saw that Yi Mei had closed the door, made a push with both hands, then stomped her foot and pointed at Yi Mei, cursing, "Is it possible that you still hit a man? That other lewd woman must be having an affair with that man inside. Oh my goodness, my poor Changsheng, I watched him grow up with a runny nose and tears." Before Yi Mei could answer, Grandma Wang pretended to faint and walked away in a burst of tears. A few strong men who were close to him saw this and quickly helped her up. "Woo-woo, isn't it?" Granny Li also pretended to act along. The Northwest Wind group had already walked out of the crowd, all imitating the appearance of Grandma Wang and Grandma Li, covering up and crying. But who knows if they are crying or laughing? These days, the weasel has been doing a lot of New Year's greetings to the chicken. But when everyone saw Liu Changsheng treating Northwest Wind like his parents at home, they thought that Liu Changsheng had a really good relationship with them, and at the same time, they really thought that Liu Changsheng had encountered something unexpected. They were filled with righteous indignation and fought for Northwest Wind's injustice. In addition, Liu Changsheng's grandfather was a respected and renowned sage in this area, who solved many problems for the villagers around him. How could there be no reason not to be angry? Yi Mei has a desire to die, but she knows she doesn't even have the qualification to die now. "Which dead ghosts are shouting in front of my house?" A familiar voice sounded, and Yi Mei seemed to grab a life-saving straw and turned her head in surprise to look behind her. I saw the door of the Liu family slowly open, which startled the troublemaker Northwest Wind. They felt both frightened and somewhat curious. Chapter 9. The Antecedents of Disturbances Caused by the Northwest Wind Organization. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. De Co Lois Ara Trong Quatrin Lay Text. Chapter 10. Liu Changsheng. Yes, I'm not dead yet. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. De Co Lois Ara Trong Quatrin Lay Text.